Good afternoon, everybody. This is Hunter Mozingo bringing you your daily market insight video for Monday, December 27th, a little over 5 minutes after market close here in Jacksonville, Florida. And today we had a broad rally, new highs for the S&P. We're going to look at whether or not we're extended on the indices. We're going to look at where the relative strength or where the weakness is as well. And additionally, we're going to look at two buys we made today. In just a moment. So before we do that, let's talk about the performance very quickly. The G5 only up 0.78%, as you can see, lagging the rest of the major indices there, and that is pretty much because of ARKK really lagged the entire market today, more or less, along with biotech. So we're going to look at that in just a moment, but I just wanted to explain that big, pretty significant divergence there, because if you didn't have ARKK, it'd probably be a little closer to in line with the S&P or mid cap, something along those lines. However, S&P new highs, like we said, up 1.4%, Qs up 1.6%, the Dow up about 1%, mid caps up a little over 1.3%, and the Russell 2000, which was the laggard, was red this morning, finishing up around 0.9%. So like I said, a broad rally. We saw defensive stuff have a good day. We saw some of the more value sectors have good days, along with some of the growth areas. So pretty broad strength today. So which leads me to the market state, which is now in an uptrend, in large part due to that broad strength. We saw the Qs continue their move upwards, the S&P, the Dow, the mid caps trying to poke its head above the 50-day, small caps getting back into those moving averages. So market state is now in an uptrend. You certainly feel that way when you look at the Qs and the S&P and even the Dow as well, getting close to all-time highs. So the trend gauge has no changes, however. And so I want to explain this very quickly. We will be moving these small yellow arrows off and probably going to these black arrows here if mid caps and small caps can get through the 50-day moving average. So mid caps had its first close above the 50-day today. We're aware of that. We're watching for the second close above it, and we're looking for small caps to do the same. Small caps still below the 200-day, so watching for a one close or consecutive closes above the 200-day for IWM as well before these little yellow arrows come off. Aside from that, there's no changes to the trend gauge. So before we get to the charts, as I always do, if you have any questions about anything that I cover here in this video, whether it's individual stocks, levels on an index, whatever the case is, please send me an email. I'd be happy to answer your questions or communicate with you. Or if you're interested in what we do, what our strategy is, please send me an email, or anybody here, Dan, Tim, Meryl, Alex, or Don at revereasset.com. So let's get into the charts. We're going to start with the S&P. As you can see, clearing this 473, 474 area right here and making new highs today. So we're going to talk about whether or not we're extended here, and you can see we are a little bit, right? We're about 3% off the 50, 2.5 off the 21. Historically speaking, and even if you look at just the rallies over the course of, the last 18 months, pretty much, as you can see here on this daily chart, that's pretty extended for the S&P, and we have come very sharply off the bottom. However, that does not mean that this cannot continue higher. It doesn't mean it can just go sideways for a little bit here. This is a very strong move, really almost a failed breakdown that turned into a breakout, failed head and shoulders, if you will, on QQQ. So we've got a very sharp move to the upside, but I want to highlight something very important here on the S&P and on the Qs in particular, and that is the 50-day should continue to move up at a pretty nice rate. And that is because all of these days right in here on both the S&P and the Qs are now off of that 50-day moving average calculation. So all you're really tracking is from above this level here, above 450 on the S&P, and similarly on the Qs, kind of above 375, 380. So we're going to see that move, that 50-day, continue to slope upward at an increasing rate, at a nice rate, as long as the trend continues. We are a little bit extended from the moving averages. However, a very strong move after a failed breakdown here on the S&P. Strong reversal back up through the moving averages very quickly, and we obviously know the Qs look very similar. A really strong reversal here. back up through the moving averages, and we're really at about the same extension from the moving averages here on the Qs, a little over 3% from the 50, 2.5% or so from the 21. So relatively extended, but nothing absurd. Once again, we've had a very sharp move, but we should see these moving averages continue to move up. We finally got through this 400 level on the Qs, which was imperative, similar to getting through that 470 and 473 level on the S&P. So the Qs making a big time strong move today. Those two are going to be the most extended of the bunch, and that's what I want to highlight here. We're about 3% from the 50/the 21 on the Qs and the S&P, but on these other indices, we're really not extended whatsoever, right? The Dow roughly 1.5%, 2% from the 50 and the 21. Nothing crazy by any means. Getting back through that 360 level, that was important for DIA. Mid caps, like I said, just getting above the 50. They're not going to be extended by any means because they don't look as good as the Qs and the S&P. And then small caps is really just now eating its way into all of those moving averages, right? This 220 to 225 level is going to be kind of messy, for lack of a better term. You want to see it get easily through this level, back through the 50-day. But the positive is we're at least trying. We're staying above the 8-day. We're trying to get back above these moving averages here on small caps. So not extended on IWM, not extended really on MDY, not necessarily extended on the Dow, moderately extended from the moving averages on the Qs and the S&P. But we have had very sharp moves up from the bottom over the last 5 days. So keep that in mind too. So let's get to some of the strongest stuff, some of the stuff that's showing relative strength and the things that we added to today. So TTD, one of those, an existing position. We did make a small add to this position today, earlier this morning, on the strong move back up through the moving averages, getting back through the 50, the 21, and continuing that pattern. As like I said, a small add to TTD today, and then another new position today, DVN, an oil name. This was recapturing these moving averages this morning, and we saw really nice feedback from this buy as it finished near the highs of the day, up 6%. Early this morning, it was slightly down to just moderately up. So a really strong finish for DVN, as well as most of the oil companies today. It was one of the strongest sectors in the market. Also, AMD up another 5-6% today. Really strong move. NVIDIA up about 3 or 4% today. So the big liquid semiconductors continue to be very strong, continue to be great barometers for the market in regards to their leadership, particularly for growth stocks. Tesla, same kind of situation there in regards to being a great barometer. Up another 3% today, was up over 4% at one point, near about 1,100 or slightly over 1,100, as you can see, but a very sharp move up. You got to be aware of that, and that there may be some digestion, some pausing, or things could just stay vertical. You never know, but this is from 900 to 1,100 here in 4 days for Tesla. MRVL, another holding for Grotection, continuing to act well, up 3.5%. Like I said, semiconductors were one of the leading sectors going back all the way to the October 14th follow-through day, and have continued to act like a leading sector all the way up until this point in time. ANET, Arista Networks, also just really, really beautiful, nice move over 140 here, as you can see, to close out last week, and continuation today, up another 3.5%. Another holding for Grotection. CF, the chemical agriculture space, this name is really, really, really strong. You can see the volume here, the fundamentals. This one has continued to move up without really giving an opportunity to get into it. Not much of a pause whatsoever here on CF. This group is strong as well. Mosaic and Nutrient are two other names that you can check out in that group. FTNT, the cybersecurity name, a sector that, or an area of the market, or area of the software sector that's really had a tough time recently, particularly CrowdStrike and some of the more high beta ones. But Fortinet really putting it together today. You can see RS line blue dot, or RS line new high there, confirming with price. So FTNT really acting well. FCX and Nucor, two metals plays, right? But we saw XME actually be one of the strongest names today, along with technology. So like I said, a very broad rally. FCX up about 2%, Nucor up around 1 or 2% as well, excuse me. So both of these acting well. Their moving averages compressing there, the 21 and the 50. And then, like I said, XME, XLK, and XOP, oil and gas, 3 of the strongest sectors today. Now let's go to some of the weaker stuff. Or actually, first, let's look at 2 weak things that actually had a decent close today. So for one, uranium, the uranium ETF closing above the 21-day for the first time in a while. And then also BITO, this is the Bitcoin ETF. It didn't quite close above the 21-day, but this is also not an exact representation of what Bitcoin is or where the price is relative to moving averages, but also trying to do something similar, get back above that moving average for the first time in a while. So just wanted to highlight that very quickly. I mentioned biotechs were really weak, especially relative to the market, as you can see, down about 2.5%, 3%, right on the 21 and the 8-day. This really dragged down ARKK, as there is a decent bit of biotech and genomics exposure here too. So we'll see how this plays out, but this was one of those areas that had been strong while the market was weak. Biotechs kind of had led ARKK up on this bounce here, but today doing the inverse, being a laggard and really dragging it down today. So biotechs weak today, ARKK weak today. Also Amazon really not able to get back above the 50. You can see the harsh reversal and rejection there at the 50-day moving average. Netflix, the other big name that was weak today, flat, while most of the other mega tech names were green or having a strong day. GLD, one of the lagging areas of the market, still up a little bit, but just not really doing anything, especially relative to other sectors and whatnot. And then a couple more here. Jets, the travel ETF, down a little bit today. You can see a nice candle. However, TAN, the solar ETF, big time weakness today. Still, solar still not really able to get you mojo going. And then Lending Club, a fintech name that really has not been able to get anything going either. You can see nothing wrong with it, trying to bounce off the 200, but still down on a day where the market was really strong. So that wraps up the video, everybody. I know that was a lot of individual tickers there, but I hope it was valuable. It should be a lot of information. You can add some of these names to your watch list. But I hope you all have a great week. I'll see you on Thursday's video as well as the podcast. So thanks, everybody.